What's up, everyone? This is me, Dane Smith, here with the beta 25% update for AgChat, the podcast that closes the knowledge gap by debunking common misconceptions about agriculture. So, when I last talked to Megan, I was showing her this beautiful spreadsheet that I made to keep me on track and everything. I think that it's coming along well. I actually got a chance to go into the podcasting studio and record some dry intros and outros that I will talk about again in just a second. So here's my 404 schedule. I'm still filling it in, but I have nailed down November 17th as the day Dr. Calloway is going to come in for our episode on dairy and beef production. So that's exciting, the first episode. From what I have recorded in Grady, it is all living here on Otter, because I was able to upload it all from a memory card that was in the Roadcaster. Very, very convenient. You can make folders, which I didn't know about until now. So I have a folder for every day I'm going to be in the podcast studio. You just have to go through and make sure that you name them. For like this one, this was an intro, and now it will be with the rest of the intros. So later, if I need a dry part of an intro, just a snippet from it, I have a lot to choose from. Each episode has its own folder. Episode content, that's more of a miscellaneous folder just for anything. And trailers, I'm going to start recording for trailers. Biggest takeaway is Otter being to transcribe things that weren't recorded on the Otter app is so pivotal to my whole project. I am stoked about it. I have started editing some in Adobe Audition. This took me a pretty long time. I used this video, which I will link in the description of this one. This tutorial was very useful because the method to the madness in editing audio is keeping everything separate. So here I've done some stitching. It's nothing impressive, but it's more than I've ever done before. And my whole thought process with editing this audio is I want right now to have a dry intro, dry outro, a dry thanks, a dry thank you to new media, so that if one of mine in the future during the episode doesn't sound good, I can put one of these in there. They're not their own files, but they're their own snippets of content that can be stitched into anywhere.
What's up, everyone? This is Dane, like Great Dane, coming at you from the University of Georgia New Media Institute, and you're listening to AgChat, the podcast where we close the knowledge gap between the average producer and the average consumer, debunking common misconceptions of agriculture. Thank you all for listening to AgChat with me, your host, Great Dane. And I hope you enjoyed our constructive and informative banter. Join us next episode where we'll be talking about sustainable plant production with Dr. Ed blah, 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 another professor at the University of Georgia. Special thanks to Dr. Calloway for showing up and UGA NMI for letting me use their podcast studio.
Okay, so that's what I have done so far. Like I said, I tried to keep the intro separate from the thanks, and separate from the teaser for the next episode, separate from the outro, because while each episode will be different, if I am in post-production and not sure of where my intro for that episode doesn't sound good, I want just a pretty generic one that I have to fall back on. And I think this does that pretty well. That YouTube video tutorial was so useful in teaching me how to keep things separate, but also together, like on the different lines, and using the razor blade tool to cut these. In my time, my one visit in the podcast studio, I have some notes from research, recap the episode, 3 calls of action in the outro, listen on other media in a taser. I have a rough outline of thanks for listening, intros and outros that I'm going to record tomorrow. I've learned that a WAV format is best for editing and altering audio, and you have to convert it to an MP3 file for distribution. So all of these files that I recorded from the other day, I had to open an Audition. Come on, man. I had to open an Audition and I had to learn how to open them as WAV files so that I could save them as MP3 files, because MP3s are much, much easier to export. And here is the MP3 Test Zero mixdown. That is the MP3 version of this. I'll be uploading that in the folder and keeping my Google Sheet updated. I'm just having a little bit of a creative block right now with filling it in. I'm sure there's plenty to do. I'm just not doing it yet. Not a lack of effort, but I'm just trying to make sure I don't get ahead of myself, because I will do that. Episodes locked down Dr. Calloway, so I can go ahead and change this to green. 17th. My 404 schedule. All of this will be in the folder I'm about to upload. The agenda, update project brief, upload to Otter, which just means making sure everything I record is transcribed, because I want this to be accessible to everyone, even though it is a podcast, which is almost completely audible based. I do want other people to be able to enjoy it. So those differently able with hearing differences will be able to read it and enjoy it. I think a transcript is absolutely huge, and Otter is so helpful for all of this. I am still figuring how to edit audio. So the deadlines are going to be for next week for the intro and the outro, and for the questions I have for each guest. So I have them in time for Dr. Calloway to come in. And that is pretty much it. This is the YouTube video tutorial. I'll link it in the YouTube video I'm uploading. It was super helpful. And I hope that all of that made sense, because it was a little all over the place. Oops.
This video is going to be.
Yeah, that's pretty much the biggest update, is about Otter being able to house everything and where all my transcripts are going to live, because it does a great job with that. And I'm going to upload a copy of the stitching job that I've already shown you, so that I can get some feedback on that and get a final draft on my final script for intro and outro and everything. I also visited Sydney White's Medium post, because she was a big inspiration to me about having a podcast and just like breaking the mold and flipping off the status quo. I thought that it was so good, and her Medium post was so helpful. And that's pretty much it. I hope you've enjoyed this little update. It's mainly about audio editing, which is hard. And by the next week, I will be good at it. Thank y'all.